Hello friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's start our video with a story where OP encounters a reckless driver in a construction zone. Crazy entitled driver thinks he can plow his way through a construction zone. The other day I was driving down a certain road in the Bay Area where I live, a good portion of it a windy two-way rural road with one lane in one direction and the other lane in the opposite direction. There are double yellow lines down the middle of the road, which they've reinforced with reflective pavement markers and rumble strips. The grooves in the road, which make a noise if your tire passes over them, letting you know you're drifting over the yellow lines. The message is clear. Absolutely no passing other vehicles by crossing the lines. The only time you may do so is if you're specifically directed to do so by a police officer, a flagger, or a sign. Important detail for later. Currently, there's a major construction project that'll take multiple years to complete. They started about a year ago, and they anticipate it'll be finished in 2025. This project has necessitated blocking off one of the lanes with cones, reflective delineators, and signs clearly indicating the lane is closed. There are temporary rumble strips in the lane letting you know that you're entering a construction site, signs with a reduced speed limit of 25 miles per hour. This road is notorious for people wanting to drive fast, and other signs letting you know you're entering and exiting a construction zone. To save the trouble of having a flagger on site, they've set up a temporary traffic light with a sign nearby saying that the wait time before it turns green will be 6 minutes. There's a white line indicating where you're supposed to stop. When I get to the light, I often just shift into park because I know it'll be a while because one of the lanes is blocked off. When you're in that lane and reach the part that's blocked, you may cross over, but only when the light turns green. There's a sign directing you to cross over to the other lane and another sign directing you to go back once you're past the construction zone. I'm sharing all this detail because I don't see how they can make it any more clear that this is a construction zone other than having cops on site in addition to construction workers. Anyways, on to the story. I was in the lane, which is blocked off. There was one car ahead of me. We get to the light, stop, and wait for it to turn green. Suddenly, this guy in a Mazda SUV comes driving down the road, sees a bunch of cars stopped, and is like, no biggie, I'll just cross over the double yellow lines and pass everybody. So he gets into the lane going in the opposite direction, passes all of us. Once he sees that we're stopped and there's a construction zone with a traffic light, he tries to get back into the right lane, only he can't get in now because the car in front of me is stopped behind the line. There's literally no room for him to squeeze past us and get back into the right lane without driving into the part of the lane that's blocked off, so he wedges his way in as best as he can, but now he's past the white line that you must stop behind as well as the traffic light, so he isn't able to see when it changes. Obviously, we're all honking our horns as a means of asking, WTF are you doing? He gets out of his SUV, he's a middle-aged white guy, I'm guessing probably in his late 50s, and he starts spewing all this crap about how he's trying to get away from the cartel and that he's going to drive like hell in order to do so. He also mentioned some crap about having to get to the doctor. I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was at this point that I went from feeling like the guy was an entitled dumb butt to actually being kind of scared. We were all like, dude, you're going to kill someone if you do that. And he responded that he was the one who was going to get killed due to the cartel supposedly being after him. He then asked when he could go, and we told him when the light turns green. Remember, he's not able to see the light because he went past the line where you had to stop. The woman in front of me gets back into her car and moves back a few feet, and I do the same in order to give the guy enough room so that he can back it in enough to where he can see what color the light is. I was afraid that he was going to hurt someone due to him saying he was going to drive like hell in order to escape whoever supposedly was after him and get to the doctor. Eventually, the light turned green, and we carefully made our way into the opposite lane, past all the construction, and then got back into the right lane. I was still really afraid he was going to do what he said he was going to do, as he was going pretty fast. Luckily, he wound up being behind another SUV driver who was going at the speed limit. Thankfully, he stayed in the lane and didn't pass him. In my opinion, people like that shouldn't be on the road. And our second story. No, my scooter does not work here, lady. I used to work in a section of a major city that had a ton of electric scooters for rent just everywhere. I found myself using them quite often to get around and decided I would just buy one for myself to save some money in the long run. I would keep it in my office and use it for lunch breaks or quick errands around my building. One day, as I was returning to my building, I go back to work when this lady stopped me. I had my headphones in, so I didn't hear her clearly. I thought she'd ask me, "Are these fun?" I replied, "Oh yeah, these are great," and folded up my scooter and kept on walking. Turns out she'd asked, "Are you done?" as in, "Are you finished with your ride?" She ran up behind me and gave a slight tug on my shirt and said, "If you're done, I'll take it from you." Me: "No, this is my personal scooter. See, no markings. I think you can find some on the other side of the building, though." Lady: "You can't take them with you if you're not going to be riding them." It's like she wasn't even listening to what I was saying. At this point, we're inside the lobby of my building, and the building security guys are beginning to raise some eyebrows in my direction. I again told her this was my personal scooter. There were no brands on here, no labels, no barcode for anyone to scan. She began walking away, and I thought that was the end of it, but she walked towards the security guards and said something to them. They approached me. Security: "Iban, this lady's saying you stole her scooter." I know the security guys, and they know me. Lady: "No, he's stealing the popular company scooter. He's taking it with him." Security laughs out loud. "I understand. No, ma'am, that's his scooter. We see him riding it every day." For some reason, she couldn't understand the concept that you could buy these scooters on Amazon or wherever. Lady: "But he's done with it. Once he's done riding, it's open for anyone to use." At this point, I kind of felt sorry for her and offered to explain by showing her the difference. The three of us walked through the building to the other side where there were 5 scooters that looked like mine except with all of the branding and stickers and such. See, these belong to the company. Mine is just completely blank. And if you pull up your phone and zoom in on where we're standing, you'll see that it only shows 5 available scooters. She still had this blank look on her face. Not sure if it was from not understanding or her trying to hide her embarrassment, but after a few seconds, she said, "Thanks," scanned one of the scooters and rode away. I just think how embarrassing that situation will be for her when she finally realizes what has happened. And our last story. Blocked someone in who parked in my driveway and then got drunk and couldn't move the car. Last Saturday, I was hosting a birthday party starting at 6 p.m. and going late into the night. Before the party, I took a drive out to the store to get some last-minute supplies. I live in an apartment, and I have a private driveway. My street's a busy one with crowded parallel parking along the sides. It's also always crammed when the nearby school has some event. A few times, people have parked in my private driveway, even though it's obviously marked as private. I come back to my place, and there's a big minivan parked in my driveway. I'm annoyed, but I drive up and down the street looking for another place to park. There's nothing. And I end up going to my place again and parking in the driveway behind the minivan. It's a longish, narrow driveway, and I knew I'd have to move my car to let them out. My friends started coming over to party, and the car owner still wasn't back. It had been like half an hour. My friends wanted to do shots, and I'm not sure if I should. I won't drive after I've been drinking, and I might need to move my car. But after some convincing from my friends, I decided, F it. I'm not letting some random a-hole keep me from enjoying my own party. In a couple of hours, I'd forgotten all about the car. I was having a hell of a fun time at my party. My friends and I were all pretty hammered and were ordering some pizzas. Someone knocked on the door, and we assumed it was the pizza guy. My friend got the door, and it turned out to be a big family group. They were saying they were boxed in and asking if the car owner lived there. I came to the door and was like, "Yeah, it's my car, but I'm crap-faced, man. I can't move it now. Come back tomorrow, yeah." And the dad was saying something about how they needed the car to get home. They just stopped off for a bit, and it was an emergency. They were running the school's homecoming and needed a quick spot to park, and they'd left a note and everything. I went, "Nothing you say is going to make me drive drunk, man. Come back tomorrow." His wife asked how they were supposed to get home. I said to call a taxi. She said their family was too big. And I said call 2 taxis. She asked if she could move my car, and I said no, I won't let strangers drive it. She asked if anyone else could, and I said no, we're all hammered. I ended up just slamming the door because I didn't want to spend the night dealing with that. They were gone when the pizza guy showed up. The next day, I slept in till 3 p.m. because I'd been up mad late the night before, plus being hungover. I found a note on my door that the family had been by to get their car and I wasn't answering my door, and they have their phone number to call them when the car was moved. They threatened to call the police if I didn't work with them. Sounded really mad. I texted the number saying I was moving my car and then I left my house for my boyfriend's house for the night. Didn't really want another run-in because they seemed mad. Plus, I wanted to see my boyfriend anyway. I wish they had called the cops. Sir, I parked illegally. Help. I mean, I hope they learned their lesson. Good on you. I'd probably just let them pull my car out and pull it in again. You have balls. And our last story. Harass me and mine, go to jail. Many years ago, I bought a house in a neighborhood with a very restrictive HOA. However, the property I bought pre-existed the HOA and was not included in the HOA or restricted in any way. One of my neighbors seemed to take great offense at the fact that I was not a part of the HOA and did not have to abide by the overly restrictive rules. From the time that I moved into the house, he started giving me grief. First, it was HOA notices that I was under no obligation to follow. When that failed, he began to harass me at every opportunity. For months on end, this guy would call in noise complaints anytime I had guests over. No party, just guests. He also habitually called in code complaints and generally harassed me and my family in many other ways. For months, he made my life hell. Finally, one night, while friends were visiting, we got a knock at the door. It was a police officer responding to another noise complaint. WTF, we were just sitting around playing cards. This was the last straw. I decided to get him back. I formulated a plan. First, you must understand that this was about 30 years ago. There were no cell phones in general use, and the average citizen did not have access to the easy communications that we enjoy today, or my plan would have never worked. I've been into radio my whole life, so my car and house were well equipped with two-way radios. Next, it was fortuitous that my house was in a development that had one road in and one road out. There was a convenience store on the corner that always had plenty of cars in the lot for me to blend in with. We put our plan into action on a Friday night. We established an alibi with a close friend in town who would swear that we were at his house playing cards all night. Next, I opened the windows and placed my speakers for my sound system up in the windows facing my neighbor's house. We then cleared a hiding place in a closet with a clear view of the driveway. I then got in my car and drove to the store parking lot, found a spot that gave me a clear view of all cars entering or leaving the development. Once we established that communications were good, it was D-hour. My wife turned on the stereo to rock music at full volume, rattling the neighborhood. Also, every light in the house went on. The music was so loud I could hear it at the store over half a mile away. We waited. Sure enough, in about 30 minutes, a police car turned into the development. I radioed my wife. Working together, she and her sister quickly turned off the stereo, pulled the speakers from, and closed the windows, turned off the lights, and then quickly hid in the closet. The police arrived, pulled in the driveway, and found an apparently empty and dark house. Windows closed, doors locked, curtains open, lights off, driveway empty. My wife and her sister sat silently in the closet while the officers knocked on doors, shined flashlights in windows, and walked completely around the house. Eventually, they decided the house was empty and left. I watched them exit the development and head back towards town. We waited about 30 minutes and repeated the procedure. Windows open, speakers up, stereo on full blast, lights on. About 15 minutes passed before the police returned. Radioed my wife, windows closed, speakers down, lights off. Once again, the police went to my house. They tried every door, spent more time looking in the windows. They even sat in the car out front for about 20 minutes before leaving. About 15 minutes after they disappeared towards town, we repeated the whole procedure once again. This time it was less than 5 minutes before the police returned. This time they had their blue lights on. Oh, crap. The police pulled into my empty driveway, but immediately backed out and went to my jerk neighbor's house. They were there for more than 30 minutes. My wife couldn't hear everything that was said, but there was shouting and cursing. Eventually, the police left, my wife radioed me, and I returned home. 2 days later, my neighbor's name appeared in the local newspaper as having been charged with misuse of police resources, filing a false report or something like that. I don't remember the exact charges. Hey, it's been 3 decades ago. But after that night, I never received another complaint visit from the city or police as the result of him. And the other harassment stopped. It's pretty risky stuff. Brilliant. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.